ask direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. I think there are a lot of tough issues that our country is facing.
Does this mandate make sense?
That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil, contextualized conversation with perspective.
CBS News, 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS.
CBS News. Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, Sunday on CBS.
We have to reset the standard for what we expect and are willing to accept from a president.
If we repeat that same playbook in 24, we're going to lose.
I think it's a missed opportunity for Donald Trump, and I think it's a missed opportunity for Republican voters.
You can't win the American people by being absent.
I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me.
Innovation, not regulation. Regulation's choking this country.
We're not just running from something. We're running to something.
Welcome to a special edition of America Decides, live from Simi Valley, California at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. I'm Ed O'Keefe. 7 Republican presidential candidates are gearing up for the second GOP debate tonight. Former President Donald Trump is skipping the event and will instead give a speech in Michigan. A new CBS News poll finds the former president's far ahead of the rest of the field in Iowa and New Hampshire, the 2 first states that will vote in 2024. In the Hawkeye state, 51% of GOP voters said they would vote for Trump today. Half of Republican voters in the Granite state said they would vote for the former president. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis comes in a far second in both states. Before we speak with representatives of several other contenders who are here in California, let's check in first with the frontrunner who's headed to the battleground state of Michigan. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa is in the Wolverine State and joins us now. Bob, set the scene for us there in Clinton Township. What are we expecting tonight, and who exactly is he speaking to?
Ed, it's great to be with you. We are here in a crucial battleground area and county in a crucial battleground state as 2024 looms and a possible rematch between former President Trump and President Joe Biden, who was just here yesterday to walk a picket line with United Auto Workers as they continue their strike against the big 3 auto companies. In the wake of that presidential visit, you now have the Republican frontrunner coming to Michigan, making his pitch to working voters, such an important group of voters ahead of 2024. Trump is speaking tonight here at a non-union facility, which irks some union members we spoke to earlier today at a picket line just a few miles down the road.
So these are expected to be Republican supporters of his, but not necessarily UAW members, right?
Oh, these are Trump supporters who are here in the room. This isn't a rally. This isn't being held at a hockey arena or in a cavernous ballroom. This is at a facility called Drake Manufacturing. It's a non-union facility. Trump's coming here to rally working voters. Some union members are here, some non-union members. Some suburban supporters from the Detroit area also coming from Macomb County. They want to hear what Trump has to say. It has the feeling of a consolidated Trump rally contained in this manufacturing company space. And we're surrounded here, Ed, and you're such a great scene setter. Well, the scene here is you have a lot of wire, a lot of machines, tools being piled up by the stage. But this is where Trump wants to come to make an overture to working voters. He needs them to turn out for him in the primaries next year to consolidate his own base, as so many of these rivals out there in California with you are looking for a breakout moment.
And when we look at those numbers in Iowa and New Hampshire, Bob, 30-point lead in Iowa, 37-point lead in New Hampshire, and the decision to skip the second debate, is that the plan going into the fall as this continues if those numbers hold up, or is there any conversation in the Trump world about possibly showing up for one of these?
Based on my conversations with Trump's advisors, he's not out. It's on a case-by-case basis. If he ever slips in the polls, I wouldn't be surprised to see him show up at a debate, especially closer to some of the early nominating contests next year. But at this time, with such a large lead in the polls, they don't feel any pressure to show up. And they believe by not showing up, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and others become the targets on stage if Trump's not there. So if Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, wants to take a shot at Trump, well, he's not there. Maybe he takes on another contender. That's the thinking inside Trump world here in Michigan tonight.
And he goes from Michigan. Where does he head next? There's been all this talk of possibly spending more time in Iowa. Is that in the works?
It's certainly in the works. You can expect Trump to continue to go to Iowa, to South Carolina, to New Hampshire to underscore his support in those early states, because the Trump strategy goes down to getting a big lead early on in delegates, staving off everybody else from having a chance to compete. And let's not forget, when I talk to state party chairs around the country, they say Trump has this Republican Party nationally wired. He has state party chairs and vice chairs and delegates already part of his orbit. So to build an organization for him is much easier coming in as a former incumbent president, now on the sidelines, but really not politically on the sidelines. So many of his people still hold positions of power in politics, even if they don't hold positions of power in the government.
All right, Robert Costa there in Clinton Township, suburban Detroit, awaiting the former president, who will be there later tonight. We will get a recap from you in our later editions after the Republican debate at 11 Eastern. Bob, thank you, and we'll be in touch. But back here in California, the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, is set to be standing at center stage tonight. Here's what he had to say when pressed on those new CBS poll numbers that have him failing to close the gap in early states.
This is our time for choosing. We're not going to get a mulligan on the 2024 election. We've had 3 straight election cycles in a row where Democrats have a playbook to beat Republicans. And if we repeat that same playbook in 24, we're going to lose. We were supposed to have a big red wave in 2022.
Senior advisor and pollster for the DeSantis campaign, Ryan Tyson, joins us now. You are the numbers guy for the Florida governor. You've seen our numbers at Iowa and New Hampshire. Do they track with what you're seeing internally?
They look similar. What's interesting, if you take a look back at history, 2016, 18, 2022, Trump campaign says don't believe the numbers. Now we're supposed to believe the numbers. I get confused sometimes. The bottom line is that voters are actually going to decide who this is, not polls. So at this point, I think you just showed this on the screen a second ago, half of the former president's ballot shares considering other candidates.
Yeah.
It's September, folks. We got a ways to go. It's going to start getting cold soon. Not here, not in California, out in Iowa. Voters are going to start paying attention. And I think when that happens, they're going to like what they hear from Ron DeSantis.
You don't see him here tonight, the former president. The governor has channeled in his public comments that he's eager to talk about abortion access, abortion rights in this country, concerned about what the former president had to say about his position on abortion. Is that the best strategy going to Iowa and New Hampshire, or is that just one of the best ways right now to potentially draw contrast with the former president?
The governor just wants to have a conversation about the future of this country and where we're going. It's hard to do that when you're doing it through Twitter or whatever it's called, Truth, or through the internet. I think it's time to see that conversation occur. Why are we talking about the past? Let's talk about moving this country forward. And we hope that the former president wants to come out and do that.
You can't officially coordinate with the governor's super PAC, the Never Back Down PAC, well known to voters in the early states because they're seeing way too much advertising from them. But they had issued a memo before the first debate suggesting that Vivek Ramaswamy was where he should point a lot of his ire, at least in that first contest. Is that worth his time tonight or in general?
The governor's the only one on that stage last time in Milwaukee, the only one on the stage tonight that has a message. He's got a message to deliver to not just this party, but to the American people about repealing Bidenomics, getting this country up on its feet, moving forward. We're not reading any memos from super PACs or political consultants or media pundits at this point. He looks forward to staring the American people in the eye, sharing with him his vision for how to get this country back on its feet moving forward.
How does he get ready for a big night like this? I know he's been in California since Sunday, doing some events, doing some fundraising, celebrating his wedding anniversary with the First Lady. 14 years of marriage for them, 14 years for me last week. I guess we have that in common. But how does he get ready for a debate like this?
He loves to exercise, so he exercises in his routine in the morning, and then he and the First Lady have their lunch, and then it's just rest and get ready to rumble.
And who do you think, if you're sitting here gaming out where this might go tonight, of the others, honestly, the other 6, who do you think is most likely coming for him?
Probably all of them. If you believe
come
your
on.
poll numbers, they have to all come to him. So I would say all of them.
All right. And he's ready?
He is absolutely ready. You'll see soon.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Numbers. Anything else from your polling that's worth knowing?
That it's early and that there are a lot of candidates that are going to get weeded out in this through the next couple of weeks, through the next couple of months. We've got Miami coming up still for the debates. I think as we get closer to the holidays, voters are going to start to wake up. They're going to start to pay attention. And as that begins to occur, I think you're going to see some of these numbers begin to shift. And then we look forward to Iowa, first place in the nation where everybody has to watch. The results there set the stage for everything that moves forward. You mark my words.
Sounds good. We'll be talking to you along the way. Ryan Tyson, pollster for the DeSantis campaign. Thank you for your time. We will hear from several of the other campaigns in the coming hour, and we got a taste of where Mike Pence may be headed tonight from comments made earlier by his wife, Karen Pence, on CBS Mornings. We'll hear from her and a Mike Pence senior advisor to give us a sense of what to expect. We are live in California, and you are streaming America Decides.
If it's important to our nation,
I wonder how you think about where America is at this moment.
it's on Face the Nation.
Can there be stability if Vladimir Putin remains in power?
Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan on CBS.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education. Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News Streaming.
Welcome to America Decides.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
I always tell people that Twitter would not be Twitter without Black Twitter. It's just us being in fellowship with each other.
And it becomes a conversation you don't want to be left out of.
People really started to recognize the power of activism on Twitter.
Based on that one tweet, the hashtag #OscarSoWhite was trending around the world.
If anything has really powered Black Twitter, it's been humor.
If your food ain't right, oh, we're going to tell you about that, too.
We tend to create change, create culture and cool.
That's how movements happen on Black Twitter and go beyond more than that.
Black Twitter, the Twitterverse that changed a generation. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
the threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Let's bring in our partners at the Weather Channel.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battery lamps.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
Feel the forecast, streaming on CBS News.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
The carnage in our nation's schools has become painfully repetitive.
Not one more child!
School shootings have parents fighting mad.
I promised my daughter I was going to fight. It's going to keep on happening.
And teachers taking lessons in how to fight back.
This is an exercise.
We approach it as it's you or them.
It shouldn't have to be your teacher's job to protect your life.
But will the battle over gun control,
people are afraid that they're going to lose their gun rights altogether,
be the hardest lesson of all?
The exercise, you're having to shoot at an adult. Are you prepared to have to kill one of your students?
Guns in the Classroom, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
She's the most successful alpine skier, male or female, ever, and a worldwide inspiration.
We need a lot of women doing sports really, really well.
The story of Michaela Schifrin's game-changing reign at the top of the slopes when we go person to person.
I think the president has stepped away from those conservative foundations. And you see it in a lot of the things that he's been saying recently. I don't think anybody who puts himself above the Constitution should ever be president of the United States.
That was Karen Pence on CBS Mornings today, challenging Donald Trump's conservative credentials. Welcome back to America Decides from the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum in gorgeous Simi Valley, California, if hot, gorgeous if hot, site of tonight's Republican presidential debate. I am joined now by Mark Short, previously served, of course, as the former vice president's chief of staff during the Trump administration, and currently serves as a senior advisor for the Pence campaign. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We flew out here together.
Yes.
So it was one of those flights where there were a lot of us.
Way too many media on that flight.
Yeah, it was off the record, though. So let's put you on the record now. The former second lady, once again questioning the former president's conservative credentials. I imagine we'll hear similar things perhaps tonight from her husband?
Well, I think that actually the vice president is very proud of their record, but I think that having Mike Pence by his side helped to ensure many of the conservative victories, whether or not it was the Supreme Court nominations that were put forward or the push for tax relief. But I think you've seen since the two of them separated, Donald Trump doesn't have a conservative foundation. In fact, he's basically walked away from his commitment to life. Now proposing a massive tax increase across all middle-class Americans with a 10% tariff on all goods coming into our nation. He said that, I'm not going to touch entitlements and just let the debt continue to spiral. So I think that there's a lot of concerns that actually when Donald Trump does not have Mike Pence by his side, he's actually wandered away from conservative principles.
We had the first debate. We're now on the verge of the second debate. And in the meantime, the former vice president's numbers haven't really moved in either the early states or those national surveys. So what does he have to do tonight to help juice his standing?
And I think he's going to stay the course. I think he's going to be the principled conservative, the full spectrum conservative on that stage who can look at the issues facing our nation, and voters can have confidence that he'll know how to fix inflation and the stagflation that Bidenomics have left us with on day one. He'll know how to address the challenges that China and Russia and the border crisis present. He'll also know how to fix frankly, the crisis facing many families across our country. And so I think he's the best equipped, best prepared, the most consistent conservative, and no better setting than the Reagan Library to make that case.
I wanted to get into that because he's a Reagan administration veteran, is he right? Or he was active in...
He did not serve in the Reagan administration, but I think
he met him a few times, though, right?
He did me when he first ran for Congress.
That's what it was. Sorry, forgive me. I should have remembered that. But good chance tonight to sort of say, I'm more of a Ronald Reagan Republican than a Donald Trump or Vivek Ramaswamy Republican, right?
Well, I don't think there's any question about that, Ed. But I also think
viewership may need to be reminded, right?
I think that what's important about that is that the principles that Ronald Reagan brought to us in 1980, it's a long time ago, but in many cases you had a failed Democrat president who had created an inflation crisis and had been soft on the world stage. And Ronald Reagan's principles helped deliver America to great victories and to a renaissance. And I think that those principles are the same. It's not something that should be stuck in a museum. It's actually those principles are the same answer to the problems we face today. I think you're going to hear him make that case.
Are these debates even worth it if Donald Trump isn't showing up?
Oh, I think so. I think that the American people get to hear from the other candidates, which is really important.
And is there any attempt at this point to try to win over those that stand by the former president, believe now incorrectly that January 6th was a hoax and that those that committed crimes that day have been unfairly maligned?
I think that was
go focus on everybody else.
I think that was addressed in the last debate, and I think that the vice president is pleased to see that most everyone on the stage agreed with the stance that he took. But I think that elections are about the future, and so I think he's excited to talk about his answers to the problems facing our country today.
Now, when he sends you guys out here to prepare us for tonight, how does he get ready today and in the days before these debates?
Well, his son-in-law is a naval aviator, just finished Top Gun, is stationed at the Naval Air Base here in California. So he spent the day with his granddaughter, and that's the best prep I think he could possibly get, is he looks at his granddaughter and knows the financial crisis and $33 trillion of debt that's facing our country, and knows you can't turn your back on them.
Well, that is one way to get ready, I suppose. Good excuse to be here then for him. Mark Short, good to see you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for taking the time. We'll see how it goes tonight. Great. We'll see you down the trail.
Thank you.
We are turning next to the Democratic perspective on all this. What do they make of this Republican gathering? Well, we'll ask California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, who joins us to discuss his thoughts on President Biden's re-election bid and what the Republicans will talk about tonight. Coming to you from the golden state of California, you're streaming America Decides.
A terrible thing happened on January 6th, and he called it a beautiful day, and in the eyes of America, it was a terrible day.
When weather turns extreme. CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real, you'll have time to get prepared. Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
That desired farm, it's a wonderful place to raise children, and it still is.
Promises broken.
Black Americans have been the target of racism and discrimination pretty much from the time they acquired ownership in the land.
Costing black farmers hundreds of billions in generational wealth.
They did everything to make sure we were run off that land.
But communities are uniting to continue the fight.
Collective ownership is powerful.
To keep their land and their dreams alive.
To watch my children play on land that we own means everything.
So land is power.
Most definitely.
40 Acres and a Mule, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Politics isn't a game. Why aren't you holding yourself to that standard? Politics is about policy. Was this the right way to actually get this done? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. To be moderator of Face the Nation is not an anchor, it's not an actress. You are up here to moderate a conversation. That means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education. Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News Streaming.
Welcome to America Decides.
She is a beloved American icon and head of a media empire. But is Oprah Winfrey happy? How do you define happiness?
Yeah, I call it happierness.
Find out when we go person to person.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It was genocide, a deliberate effort by the United States government to eliminate the food source that was relied upon by Native American tribes.
American bison were slaughtered and Native Americans displaced.
And that's how tribes were subjugated to reservations and our lands were taken.
But now, through conservation efforts at Yellowstone,
Buffalo provided everything that we needed. Now they need help.
A herd grows.
We need to step up and help them.
And a culture is reborn.
When the buffalo return and come back, that's when our tribe will begin to heal.
Yellowstone Bison Revival, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to a special edition of America Decides from Simi Valley, California. As President Biden ramps up his re-election campaign, voters are expressing concerns about his bid. A recent CBS News poll found only 34% of voters think the president would actually finish a second term. 55% say the same about former President Donald Trump. So we turn now to California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, who joins us. Governor, thank you for doing so. You are here in your personal and political capacity on behalf of the Biden campaign. So when you see numbers like those, people doubting whether or not the 80-year-old president would even be able to fulfill a second term, what do you make of that?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, can't deny this snapshot, this moment in time. But, you know, as my mom used to remind me, that the future is not something to experience, it's something to manifest. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future, including polling. And so our job is to make a case anew for the Biden record for the next 4 years, to compare and contrast our approach, which is as different as daylight and darkness, between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and that's why I'm here.
You are going to be here again on behalf of the Democratic Party. What are you anticipating tonight? What is it you're listening for as these 7 Republicans gather at the Reagan Library?
Well, I mean, and look, one is prone to a little hyperbole, particularly the pre-debate rebuttal of sorts, the pre-buttal, to be a little partisan. But I really mean this. This is a vice presidential debate at best. This is the JV team. Donald Trump is running away with this. Not just a double-digit lead, 40+% in a poll that just came out today, speaking of polls. So this is the XFL, and it's entertainment, I guess. And I'm here to witness it, watch it, but I'm also here to call out the BS and the misinformation and to make a case, again, for the Biden record.
What is the biggest piece of misinformation you think this so-called JV squad has been peddling? What concerns you the most?
Well, across the board. I mean, they sell fear and panic around border and crime, but they sell common indifference around things like climate change and rights, fundamental hard-earned rights. Let me be more specific. They're arguing to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse. And if you think I'm exaggerating, consider their record on voting rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just as it relates to abortion access, but contraception, where Nikki Haley herself said women don't care about contraception. This is a very serious moment in America's history. We also have a likely nominee in Donald Trump that has tried to vandalize democracy, that still is in denial that he lost the election. So this is a profound moment in my lifetime, our lifetime collectively, and a lot of the misinformation that they've been spewing on the campaign trail, I imagine will be on steroids tonight as all 7 of them line up in a desperate attempt to keep their campaigns alive.
You know, one of the things they may go after you on, and Democrats more broadly, is crime, is how Democrats are trying to address gun violence. You've signed laws just this week that tweak once again the state's concealed carry laws, essentially default all commercial establishments to gun-free zones unless those businesses say otherwise. You're going to impose an 11% tax, is it, on ammunition and firearms, money that's supposed to go towards violence prevention programs, school safety issues, but you know they're going to get challenged in court. Yep. Why is it that those new laws are going to somehow solve the issue of gun violence in California?
No, because we have the receipts. California has led the modern gun rights movement. By the way, it was Ronald Reagan himself, 1967, that established the first framework on common sense gun safety. Ronald Reagan, by the way, in 1989, infamously was opposed to assault rifles. I mean, I imagine that won't come up in tonight's debate. But more important than anything else, we have the data to bear fruit. Gun safety saves lives. It's not even debatable. Let me be specific. You've got states like Florida, states like Texas, with 66% higher and 75% higher gun death rates than the state of California. So our policies work. They promote public safety. They promote common sense. And we're living in a country where the #1 killer of our children, #1, is weapons, is guns. And these guys have nothing to say about it. In fact, they don't even believe in background checks, concealed carry, no background checks. They want domestic violence felons to be able to be in possession of these weapons. So this is daylight and darkness in terms of the approach and contrast. But the bottom line is we have the receipts. Gun safety saves lives.
Real quick, why is it that you want to debate Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Fox News in late November?
I particularly don't. I just think it's extraordinary that he does. He's running for president of the United States. I'm not. I think it's a disqualifier for him. I'm actually quite embarrassed that he wants to do that. He put out an ad today before his presidential debate at the Reagan Library promoting this debate. It's 2 against 1. It will be on Fox with Sean Hannity. No notes, no conditions, except we just don't want it to be a performance with a large audience going back and forth. It's beyond me. He wants to do it.
And why do you trust this venue? I mean, why bother?
Because his zest for demonization is particularly unique, Ron DeSantis. His willingness to scapegoat vulnerable communities is particularly distinctive. He's been on a book banning binge. 40% of the books that have been banned in the United States in the last calendar year have been in his state. He's banning speech. He's criminalizing teachers and librarians. But here's the answer to your question. You want the honest answer? It was when he attacked the Special Olympics, when he attacked Special Olympians and threatened to fine them with $27 million fines. I couldn't take that. And so I want to defend vulnerable communities. I want to defend democracy. I want to defend our values. And so I said anytime, any place, anywhere. I said that over a year ago. It's evergreen. He wants to do this. I'm happy to do it. But it's disqualifying for him as a presidential candidate to be baiting some guy in California.
Well, between now and then, hopefully you'll spend some more time with us here on CBS. You've been very generous with your time this week and today on behalf of the Biden-Harris campaign. Great to be in your state again, Governor. And we thank you for taking the time.
Great to have you. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for having me on.
So now let's bring in Gary Dietrich. He's a political analyst at CBS News Sacramento, our CBS station in this state's capital city. Good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Ed. Thanks for coming to California.
Well, thank you for arranging for the good weather.
Well,
we appreciate it.
We did our best.
You sit there in the state capitol and you watch your governor spending time with us, the out-of-state press,
right?
Traveling the country on behalf of the Biden-Harris campaign. At least that's what he says he's doing. What does everyone think in Sacramento he's really up to?
Well, I think everybody's already made the obvious decision, and that is he's running for president, Ed. It's just a matter, does he get a shot by some happenstance next year, or is it 28? But I mean, $10 million out of his own campaign pack to start this red state, blitz. Now he's doing a red state focused debate with Fox News Channel coming up in November. I think everybody assumes, campaigning in DeSantis' state, it's on. It's on.
And it's not abnormal for a California governor to think, why not me?
Yeah,
right?
to look in the mirror and
Reagan,
say, I'm it.
Jerry Brown, Pete Wilson, they've all flirted with this.
Yeah. And you know what? The Biden-Harris people have made no bones about the fact they like his current position. They're a little nervous earlier on, right, when they had these rumblings about Gavin for president. But now that he's taken on kind of the chief attack dog role, they're happy with that.
Because either way, he's helping out a president that's revered by most of the party, even if they don't want him running again. And then he can battle test some lines and see how things might go.
And the other thing is, be in the good graces of the incumbent.
Right.
What's there not to like about that, right? And especially because, let's not forget the fact that when she ran herself, Kamala Harris was polling in 3rd place here in California for that primary. So that isn't lost on a Gavin Newsom, who's won now 3 elections in the state.
And last time we saw him doing this kind of thing, in fact, he was a surrogate for Kamala Harris's failed presidential bid, visiting Atlanta and other places to do spin room stuff after the debates. You were reminding us that despite using this beautiful backdrop that pays reference to a very important Republican president, California is going to have a more interesting primary next year, both because it's earlier in the calendar and because of the tweaks they've had to make in their delicate allocation laws or rules that were established by the Republican National Committee, but that really transform the way presidential primaries, at least, will be held in the state.
This is exceptionally important. We used to be in June, literally, and we were basically an afterthought in the primary process. Moved up to the first Tuesday in March, Super Tuesday. But here's the real key: the California GOP decided if you win 50% of the vote plus 1, you get all of the primary delegates. Ed, that's 14% of what you need to get the nomination. So all these folks here tonight will be doing everything they can to keep Trump under that 50%. So this debate tonight is important for Trump as it is for these guys.
Because it used to be that they would dole out delegates at a congressional district level to some extent. So you might have targeted Orange County, or you might have gone to Northern California or the LA area. Now you got to blanket the state, sort of in a traditional statewide campaign. It requires a lot of money to spend a lot of time advertising.
And if Trump or anybody else doesn't get 50%, then they will be proportionally distributed.
So it incentivizes a 2- or 3-way race come Super Tuesday if you can split everyone across the state.
That's exactly right. People ask me, why would the GOP come to California? Well, they'll come to the Mecca, right? Ronald Reagan's library. But also for this reason, because, Trump gets that 14% on top of whatever else he's gotten. It's going to be awfully tough. If they can divvy those up proportionally, some of these other candidates may still have a shot.
Real quick, we talked to him a little bit about these new gun laws that were signed this week by him, tweaking concealed carry, making changes to or this tax on guns and ammo.
First time in the country. Yeah,
it's going to generate about $160 million for school prevention and other things. But the other thing they want to do is he keeps calling for a constitutional convention. How would that work?
Well, this is a really big deal. First of all, lawsuits filed the next day after these bills were signed by Governor Newsom. But here's the deal. He said even after he signed these bills, well, really it's going to happen at the federal level, and that's why he keeps calling for this constitutional convention. The problem is this. If he called for a constitutional convention, there's
to deal with gun violence primarily.
He has 4 specific things. I won't go into them right now about gun violence, underage, under 21, etc. But here's the deal. His own party said, listen, the majority of legislatures are constituted by Republicans. You throw it wide open to a constitutional convention, there's nothing to prevent them from bringing all of their own constitutional provisions. So a lot of Democrats, even his own party, saying, nix this constitutional convention idea, but he's all in.
Well, we'll see what happens, because politics are big in California. Policy is big in California, because what happens here often gets adopted elsewhere. Gary Dietrich, CBS News Sacramento. Good to meet you in person.
My pleasure.
We'll do this again, either on this coast or
someplace
over the beauty of satellites. We appreciate seeing you. And we'll talk to you again soon. But coming up, Senior advisor to Senator Tim Scott's presidential campaign will be with us to show how he might step it up tonight. From the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum in Simi Valley, California, you're streaming America Decides.
Our people are good. They are strong. But our leadership is weak.
It's a history-making meeting. 4 extraordinary women who are all 4-star generals and admirals.
How did you deal with being discriminated against?
I just worked harder. The future of an ever-evolving U.S. military when we go person to person.
Stories start with the who, what, when, and where. CBS News has been following this story. Camilla, why is the government relying on these devices to track migrants? But it's why it's important to you that matters most. Doctor, why are federal health advisors focusing on this specific pill for contraception? And knowing what to ask is how you open the door to a deeper understanding. I'm John Dickerson. See you on Prime Time, streaming free everywhere.
Stories that inform.
You can be really old at 60, and you can be really young at 85.
Inspire.
How do we unlock the power within ourselves to be who we want to be?
And brighten your day.
The best part of fame is making people feel good. Always send the people home happy.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
He started out as a fun-loving party boy, but the alcohol got the better of him. What I envisioned was him being in some sort of medical facility. I just thought, what a great candidate for them to learn about the results of alcoholism and what it does to a body. But his body was sold to the military, specifically used as a crash test dummy in a simulated Humvee explosion. I was devastated. I had the box. I don't know if they were his ashes or not. I just held it as tight as I could, and I just told him how sorry I was.
Body Brokers, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Hey there, welcome to The Uplift.
I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm going to remember that the rest of my life.
It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift, stream now on the free CBS News app.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education. Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News Streaming.
Welcome to America Decides, Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
After nearly 4 decades of March Madness, this sports broadcasting legend is stepping away from his role in covering the NCAA basketball tournament. Jim Nantz on his fondest memories and what's next when we go person to person.
Welcome back to a special edition of America Decides from Simi Valley, California. At the first GOP debate last month in Milwaukee, some candidates had heated exchanges while others kept things a little more civil. On the stage, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott called on his rivals not to criticize each other. We'll see if he follows a similar strategy tonight. Senior advisor to Senator Tim Scott's campaign, Matt Gorman, a longtime friend of politics at 5 p.m. Eastern on CBS News. It's good to see you again here in California. You guys have been here for a few days in California getting ready for this. What's the plan for tonight?
I think you're going to expect to see a couple things. I think, first of all, he's going to talk about why he's running, restore hope, create opportunity, protect the America we love. I also wouldn't be surprised if he draws some policy contrast between him and maybe some of the other candidates. Look, we believe he's the best messenger and has the most consistent conservative record, so he'll put that up against maybe some other candidates, draw some distinctions. And then the last thing I would look for is, in the last 30 days or so since the last debate, he released some extensive plans regarding empowering parents, cutting spending, and rebuilding our economy. Look for him to talk about that as well.
I asked a similar question in one of the other campaigns earlier. You had that first debate. We're on the verge of the second. The polling numbers didn't necessarily move all that much for the senator, unless you're seeing something we're not. What do you, what do you make of that? And does that require a more assertive appearance tonight than perhaps the last one?
Well, he's going to be who he is, number one. And we talked about this at the last debate, too. He's going to be the adult in the room. The crosstalk and the yelling only benefits one person, that's Joe Biden, in his reelection. So he's going to be who he is. But look, I think debates are important, but they're not defining a campaign. I think it's important to be built for the long haul. And whether it's the steady upward momentum we see in Iowa, every time we come back from New Hampshire, we're also really heartened. And of course, South Carolina is his home state, but we're not taking anything for granted. We're going to earn it there, too.
Why are these debates still worth it if Donald Trump's not showing up?
Because it's important for you have millions and millions, if not tens of millions of viewers. They want to hear what you're about, why you're running. I mean, Tim has a unique story, but he's also willing, just like Ronald Reagan did, to extend a hand to people who might not be or think of themselves as natural conservatives. So it's important you get your message out, you reach people who might not be reachable in normal ways, and people who might not be here, that's their choice.
You know, we talked to California Governor Gavin Newsom a little earlier, who's going to be here on behalf of Democrats, and he said this is essentially just the vice presidential debate, that there's just no way to catch Trump at this point. Does he have a point?
Well, Gavin should talk. I mean, he's trying to audition for president if Biden doesn't run. So really, it lays a little thick for him. But look, I think it's important because I don't put much stock in national polling. However, the national polls show that at least around half of the Republican primary voters want an alternative. This race is still fluid. It's going to be decided by the early states. It's important to use these opportunities to get your message out.
If the government shuts down, as anticipated now, Saturday night into Sunday, does the senator suspend the campaigning and stay in Washington until there's a deal, or does he keep going?
Well, we'll get those hypotheticals when it happens. But right now, our plan is to be on the West Coast for the next day or two, next couple days, and then he'll be in South Carolina this weekend, and we'll monitor all the events from there. If he needs to be in Washington, he'll certainly be in Washington, too. We'll see.
This whole campaign, I mean, others we've talked to today, too, have said it's still early, give it time. This will start to tighten in some ways. Others will peter out and drop out because they just can't afford anymore. Is that where your team sees this going, or is there something we're not missing or not calculating for?
Look, it's important to have the resources for the long haul. I mean, I was here with you a couple of years ago. Jeb Bush was at the center stage.
I wasn't going to bring that up, because that was a weird night for you guys.
It was a very weird night. But right, it was him and Donald Trump battling it out. You had Scott Walker still in the race. This is early. And again, there's a lot of time. We're going to take our message to Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Those folks will really, they're already engaged. But as you kind of see it get closer, the polls will possibly move. It's very fluid still.
I know he's appearing at the California State Convention, the GOP convention, before leaving town. Is California going to be worth spending time in, given the way they've got to redraw their primary rules and make it this winner-take-all contest versus the more proportional way it was done years past?
Look, I think we got to cross that bridge when we get there. Our focus right now is those early states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. But to my point before, you got to have the resources to be able to, if you do well in those states, to be able to go into California. You can't go in on fumes. So he's, like I said before, the best messenger in the field, most consistent conservative. It's our job to layer the infrastructure under him so he's ready for the long haul.
And the fundraising's going okay?
Fundraising's going well. Second most cash on hand, only to Donald Trump, even more than Joe Biden.
Right, that is true. And how does he get ready for a day like today?
Well, spends a lot of time in prayer. He's doing some devotionals. He has a lot of his family in town, his mom and his...
There's a photo with his nephew earlier today,
nephew,
right?
Ben Scott. And so they were all kind of hanging out at the hotel, like I said, spend a lot of time in prayer and just relaxing. It's important to really just make sure on days like this, they're in the right frame of mind and you're ready to go.
All righty. Matt Gorman.
Good to see you, Ed.
Good to see you again here
pleasure.
in Simi Valley. We appreciate it. Ahead of this second GOP debate, the Republican presidential candidates, of course, have been out on the campaign trail making their pitch to voters.
On my first day back in the White House, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation operation in American history.
Our country is in a state of decline. This is not a decline that is inevitable. This decline is a choice. This is a decline, this is a choice we're going to make as Americans over the next weeks, months, and years. And it's not going to be enough to just simply manage the decline a little bit better than the people that are currently in power.
You can't win the American people by being absent. You just can't. The American people want you to fight for them. They want to know what you're going to do. They're going to want to know solutions.
CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us now. Hello, sir.
Hey,
how you doing?
Doing well.
I haven't seen you since you got to town. We've been running around in different. This is nice.
Yeah, it's super nice.
These mountains are something else, folks. If you haven't been out here, you got to put this library on your map because it's a gorgeous site and a very helpful debate venue for Republicans as they try to suss out things tonight. You have been talking to all sorts of folks. That's what you're supposed to do as political director. What are you hearing about what the plan is for tonight?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that what I've been hearing is that Nikki Haley, who has been moving up in the polls in some of the early states and on a national level, will be a target for some of her rivals on the debate stage tonight to try to stop that momentum. I've also heard that DeSantis, who has slid in some polls, is going to actually sort of do the same strategy he did from the first debate, which is sort of stay above the fray and focus on Joe Biden. Some of his supporters tell me that what they want is him to engage more and really go after the big name who's not here, and that's Donald Trump.
Right.
The other thing is that abortion is going to be a big issue tonight. That's the expectation, at least, especially after Donald Trump's remarks to NBC in that interview last weekend, and also immigration. This is the first border state debate that they've held. And it's expected to be a big topic tonight.
We should point out this is being co-hosted by Fox Business Network. No surprise. Oh, look. This is off camera here. We can see Carrie Lake, the Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate. Miss Lake, how are you? Good to see you. All right. Well, that's the kind of crowd we're mixing with here. It's co-hosted by Fox Business Network and Univision, our friends at Univision. So it's being simulcast in Spanish.
Yeah.
Lest you think that means a lot of questions about immigration. I was talking to somebody from Univision earlier who said, actually, what this conceivably means, ignore them, what this conceivably means is that there's just a lot more questions about the economy. Because you and I know, Latino voters, immigration is not number one, it's the economy.
You look at that Univision poll that came out earlier this week, it showed that the top issue is actually the economy, costs, healthcare, not immigration. However, this is also the largest state with the largest population of Latinos and Latino voters. So some of those issues and that audience will be directly addressed.
I mean, and a lot of the things that these guys have been saying about immigrants, DeSantis' decision to ship them to New England and whatnot, he hasn't necessarily been asked about that on a stage this big. There's the potential that he's going to have to explain himself to an audience that either is showing up to hate watch or is showing up to learn something, but is definitely going to potentially have a chance to hear from him in Spanish, translated, but either way, live in Spanish, discussing these issues that he's kind of avoided talking about unless he's talking about it in the affirmative and defending why he decided to do what he did.
Absolutely, and especially the DeSantis campaign especially has touted their big strength and the big inroads with the Hispanic community in Florida. But since then, there has been a lot of criticism from some pockets of that community and across the country, really, from the Latino community on his controversy surrounding the migrants that he sent to the northern states.
Real quick, 7 contenders are here. Their teams are here.
Right.
One team that's not here at all, unlike the first debate, is the Trump team. They're completely in Michigan, standing by this idea that it's best to continue skipping these debates, right?
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. Their perspective is that why go and sort of lower their level to what they call the JV team when their focus is Joe Biden. And if by evidence today, like him being in Michigan, to some in the Trump camp, it's a turning of the page and sort of a focus, if you will, to the general election.
Trump team calls it the JV team. You know who else called it the JV team earlier this hour?
Who's that?
California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Oh, wow.
So there's at least some agreement there. Finn Gomez is our political director. We will see more of him later tonight in our post-debate wrap-up show at 11 p.m. Eastern. But coming up next, the RNC's national spokeswoman joins us to review tonight's debate and what we can expect. You are streaming America Decides live from California.
The U.S. president is more than a binder of policies, and I think we forget that sometimes. I think the U.S. president sets an example of what is possible in this country.
Our story's just begun.
Why did you want to share your story? Water up this high? Where are these coming from?
That's the million-dollar question.
I'm a very curious person. I wake up every morning asking what's happening in the world, why is this happening, and how do we answer that question on the CBS Evening News?
An original documentary from CBS reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Haitians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
We aim every night to be factual and fair. That's our goal.
An original documentary from CBS reports. Controversial Congressman George Santos.
Why won't you answer our questions?
How did he manage to get elected?
Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the USA.
George Santos' campaign was a campaign of deceit, lies, and fabrication.
And who is he, really?
I knew him as Anthony DeVolder from Queens.
Really, who he is, he's a fraud.
I compare him to the Tinder swindler.
From people who know him, the truth, the facts, the lies.
He would say that he was worth $100 million.
It's an incredibly cynical episode in American politics, beyond satire.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
No, and I hope I never see it again.
Campaign of Deceit, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Since childhood, she never stopped reaching for the skies. Now she's spent more time in space than any other American.
I like being a part of something bigger than me.
Peggy Whitson's extraordinary career as a history-making astronaut when we go person to person.
Feel the forecast on the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se.
Why aren't you holding yourself to that standard?
It doesn't look like Congress is doing anything. What has to happen? That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. And that means a civil conversation with perspective.
We are about to see American weapons in the hands of Mexican cartels.
A gun pipeline to Mexico.
We are arming the cartels. 100%, no doubt about it.
Happening right under our noses.
Who's doing something about this? Nobody.
A CBS Reports exclusive.
Most Americans have no idea that we are effectively arming the enemy next door. This is the story the American people need to know.
Arming cartels, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to America Decides. The Republican National Committee has made it clear that they hope all candidates who qualify for their debates participate in them. But now, for the second time, the frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, is passing up the opportunity to go toe-to-toe with his competition. RNC National spokeswoman Madison Geshiotto Gilbert joins us now. Good to see you.
So good to be with you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Former president isn't here. The frontrunner of your party opted again to skip. What do you guys make of that?
Well, we have more debates coming up. We really hope he'll join us. I've been friends with the president for many years, so any conversation I have with him, I'll certainly encourage him to be here. It's a great opportunity for us as a party to share that contrasting vision of what we as Republicans have to offer to the Americans that are unhappy with the way things have been going under Biden for 2.5 years. And so even if President Trump's not there, I think we'll have a great night being able to express some of those viewpoints and some of those policies to the candidates that are on the stage tonight.
So if you've got a member of your family, somebody, friend or neighbor, or someone you meet on the street who says, why bother tuning in if he's not there? Why should I devote 2 hours of my Wednesday night to this if he can't bother to show up? What would be your answer to that?
Well, again, it's about that contrasting vision. It's about what, as Republicans, can we offer that the Democrats simply have not. And almost 13 million people tuned into our first debate. I assume we'll have another successful night tonight, where millions of people who aren't necessarily Republican primary voters, but are people who are unhappy. They don't feel comfortable with the way things are. They will be voting next November, and they don't know who they're going to vote for. And I think this is the seed that may be planted that ultimately pushes independents our way, independents who maybe didn't even vote for us in 2022.
We've pointed out that this is a simulcast in 2 languages debate because our friends at Univision will be co-hosting this tonight. How important was it to the RNC to get in front of that Spanish language audience this early in the cycle?
I think it's very important. We have more Spanish language voters than ever before. I think people are very excited to hear from the candidates, to hear about what's going on. We're going to have one of our moderators from Univision, and we're very excited about that. And I think it'll be a great debate.
The former president kind of whipped up the buzzsaw on abortion access in an interview about 2-3 weeks ago now, and has started yet another round of debate among the contenders about whether or not restrictions that have been put in place in some states are gone too far, whether it's not enough, or whether, as he suggested, it's potentially politically perilous for the party. Is that a debate worth having, or wasn't this a settled issue for Republicans?
Well, I think you're going to see tonight, every single candidate that's up there has a different view and different vision. They have nuanced ideas about what the right pro-life message is. When you look back to 2022, I think we necessarily didn't connect with voters in the way we could have and should have on the issue. And I think we are on the compassionate side of the issue as Republicans, in obviously different ideas. And I think that's what's great about the party. But at the end of the day, we are on the winning side of all of the issues, whether it comes to the economy, it comes to the border, it comes to abortion. And I think it's all about not only messaging with the correct message of being able to express that, but making sure we're meeting voters where they are, not where we hope they are. We need to reach more suburban women, we need to reach more millennials, and we need to reach more minorities with the messages that are going to be part of our key to success in beating Biden next November.
Do you have evidence that the current position as it's being debated on abortion appeals to those groups, or is this an attempt to try to clarify it?
Each candidate's position is going to be a little bit different. Every camp has different advisors, they have different viewpoints, and we encourage that individuality among our candidates. We support the candidates. As a party, it is our job to make sure that we put on a transparent primary process, and that whenever somebody comes out successful from that primary process, that we equip them with every tool necessary to beat Biden. None of this matters if we don't have a viable candidate to beat Biden next November.
You got a debate this month, you got one next month, right?
We have one in November. November 8th in Miami will be our third debate.
Who's hosting that one?
We have not announced yet.
When is CBS getting one?
We'll see.
All right. Well, we want one, and we're glad you were able to stop by on a busy day for UMedicine. Jessiota Gilbert, we appreciate it. That does it for this special edition of America Decides here in California. We will be live again tonight from the Spin Room after the debate at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock here in the West. Thank you for being with us. I'm Ed O'Keefe, CBS News and Simi Valley. You're streaming CBS News.
If it's important to our nation,
I wonder how you think about where America is at this moment.
it's on Face the Nation.
Can there be stability if